Next game on the slate, this is a good one coming up here. Well, it could be a good one, but maybe not if you believe in what the point spread is here in this game. Georgia and South Carolina. We've got Georgia 24.5 point road favorites, 52 being the total in this game. South Carolina, a very interesting game last week with Arkansas. It was a game where they were trailing big, and then they kind of made it interesting down the stretch and actually had a chance probably to get a backdoor cover late in that game, but they end up losing 44-30 against Arkansas. It was a game where, look, the Arkansas run game went wild against South Carolina. Raheem Sanders had 156 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. KJ Jefferson, the quarterback, added 67 yards on the ground as well. And for Spencer Rattler, there was a little bit of good, a little bit of bad from him. He had 376 yards through the air, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. They couldn't run the football, though, very well against Arkansas. Their running backs, Juju McDowell, Marshawn Lloyd, both 13 carries and 58 yards. So they didn't really get a lot from the ground game here in this one. And obviously, when you're taking on the Georgia Bulldogs, you're always going to be in tough in terms of success running the football. There's no question. And so you worry about that here. That was South Carolina going up against Arkansas, and they couldn't get that run game going whatsoever. 125th in the country in rush yards per game right now, South Carolina. So they're definitely having issues getting that run game going. And now you got to go up against this really outstanding, as it usually is, Georgia defense. Even with the Georgia defense losing a lot on the defense, and especially the line along that defensive front, still very adept at stopping the run. So if it's a one-dimensional offense for South Carolina, and they've got to ask Spencer Rattler to do a lot, is he going to be capable of doing that is going to be the big question. South Carolina pretty much had a walkthrough on the weekend against Samford, 33-0, coming off the big win against Oregon. 53-point favorites. Certainly, if you laid the points with Georgia, you didn't even come close to covering. It was just definitely a sleepwalk. Get through the game, get it over with, and move on to this one here against South Carolina. So I know there's going to be some people that say, "The hell's wrong with Georgia? They only won 33-0. What the hell happened to them?" Don't worry about it. They're fine. They're just going through the motion. They're playing Samford, and they just came off a huge ass kicking over Oregon in a big opening game on national television. They were a little bit flat, and yet they still won 33-0 in that game. So, I think there's going to be point spreads, Conor. I think there's going to be spots and value on South Carolina. I think there's value here, but boy, I don't know if I like the matchup enough to pull the trigger, quite honestly. They are at home. They're getting a 24.5 point number. I kind of leaning toward that home dog, South Carolina, but I don't know. If they can't run the football, I just worry it's a mistake waiting to happen from Spencer Rattler, just like it was for Bo Nix in that first game he had against Georgia back in week 1. That's the one thing that might keep me off South Carolina. What are you thinking here? Georgia, South Kakalaki.
Yeah, this should be good. You mentioned Georgia. It just seems like they're going to reload. I thought they would on defense and just pushed Oregon around. Just such an easy win. You mentioned, that was really a first quarter, maybe first half. Then it was just sit everyone else against Samford. So they're ready to go. And this is a huge one on the road. But I have to say, is the Georgia love a little bit strong here because of that huge win on Oregon? Is this maybe too many points? One place I like South Carolina, even when they've been bad the last few years, they've pulled out, like an upset at home. But here we got to get to the key, which is them. Defensively, they weren't great. Jefferson did what they want. And on the offensive side of the ball, you mentioned Rattler. He threw it 376, but they had 3 turnovers. They racked up the yards. They couldn't run it, 416 total. But once again, I remember that first game that they played. I believe they were 3 of 12 on third down. They were 3 of 10. It just seemed like they move it, and then they couldn't get it, a third down conversion. They'd have to punt, or a turnover would just kill them. And that kept Arkansas with a double-digit lead. So it'll be difficult. But maybe this is too many points. I'm kind of leaning early on Monday here with the points with South Carolina. Maybe I'm walking into a trap, and Rattler's the big key. And can they run it? I don't know if they can against Georgia, like you're talking about. Special teams might have to be big with them. We talked about that in their special teams. Maybe make a play or two there. But this is a lot of points, the SEC at home. how good is Georgia? We'll find out. If they go in there and romp them, we'll know they haven't missed a beat.
That's right. Maybe you know one thing to do if you're going to bet South Carolina. I might. I haven't just. I won't. I won't be laying with Georgia. I know that. For me. It's going to be will I take South Carolina or not? Might be a good idea if you take the Gamecocks here, split the bet in half, first half and full game. Could be one of those spots where maybe early they hang and then just what Georgia does, right? They just wear you down in the second half and they pull away. So that way at least if the first half comes through and the full game does not, you'll at least get a split out of it. You won't lose the entire wager and the entire amount that you put on it. So keep that in mind. And what's impressive too for Georgia is what that national championship season and victory last year went right to the confidence of Stetson Bennett, who played outstanding, I thought, against Oregon. I mean, the guy was making plays on the run, scrambling, bootlegging, throwing off his back foot and throwing these dimes against Oregon. I mean, this guy, and remember a couple of years ago, we were thinking when JT Daniels and some of the other quarterbacks got hurt, this guy can't play, Stetson Bennett. And now look at the way he's playing.